out. Now moving on, you might remember the story we had on here about this bus crash in China. And the police are now saying that this bus driver intentionally drove the bus into a reservoir, killing 21 people. Now this confirms my own analysis. You might remember the video of this. You can see the bus, it's driving, and it takes a very sharp turn, drives through this barricade and drives into the water. Individuals say the bus sank immediately when it hit the water. Now, this ties to a bigger issue in China. One of the reasons why I said this does appear to be intentional is because we've seen other incidents like this in China. There was, for example, this other incident where a bus driver was on the bus and a lady was hitting him with her shoe, striking him, and out of vengeance, turns the bus sharply and drives the bus off a bridge, killing many people on board. This has happened in China. And so what are you seeing? The Chinese Communist Party destroyed the cultural foundations of China. It destroyed the traditional moral fabric of the country. And what do you have? One of the main goals of these communist systems, right, is to establish power, establish absolute power. And if you want to establish absolute power, you need to get rid of anything that would challenge your power. And if people recognize higher values, if people recognize, for example, a belief in God, and of course all communist systems persecute just about every main religion, right? If people recognize a power higher than the government will never have full power over the people. And if the government does things that are considered immoral based on this recognition of higher values, the people will revolt against it. And so we've seen this, for example, with the Soviet Union. We saw this with a lot of the Soviet bloc countries, where the people who revolted against the communist system were often the religious people. The CCP took a lesson from that, and it heavily, heavily persecutes all religions in China, all the ones that are not directly in its control, for example. And what happened with that? There are two types of order in society. There's internal self-restraint, the ability of an individual to make moral choices on their own. And that is rooted in your beliefs, that's rooted in your culture, and that's rooted in the values you were taught growing up. The CCP destroyed that in China. And it instilled a new form of morality, this social justice. Social justice was coined in 1967 by Mao Zedong. The idea is morals in line with government policy. If you follow government policy, you are politically correct. That is how it's interpreted. And if you go against government policy, you are not politically correct. At the time of Mao Zedong, if you did so, you could be killed. The CCP did that. They destroyed the moral order of the society, and they created this state order. But state order can only govern people down to a certain extent. And when it comes to people getting in fights with each other, when it comes to things like this, they will do whatever they see fit in the moment. And you see things like this in China. Now, not to say this doesn't happen in other countries, but for the CCP, this does tie into the bigger issue of social stability. One of the factors of this state government system, where state power is essentially the only fabric of stability within the country, is that they're only able to create stability down to the level they can monitor people, down to the level that they can watch people's every move, which is why the CCP has things like the social credit system, which is why it has social control systems that monitor your every action, which is why it has cameras in classrooms, for example, for kids that monitor their facial expressions to see whether they approve or disapprove of the things they're being taught. This is why it does things like that, right? And so the Chinese people are being monitored like this because the Chinese Communist Party does not trust their ability to make moral judgments. And if the CCP has taken over the moral order of the society and taught them a moral order based essentially on immorality, then you have things like this take place. That's what we're watching right now.